It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrant and Mary Jo Foley are here celebrating the 27th anniversary of the launch of Windows 95. Paul's a little upset because Outlook Mobile is now displaying more ads. Mary Jo's got a rant, too, because she doesn't like the way Outlook looks anymore. Google's getting out of the IoT business and new ways to stream the latest games. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrant and Mary Jo Foley, episode 791, recorded Wednesday, August 24th, 2022. Thurrant of the Century. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Collide. Collide is an endpoint security solution that gives IT teams a single dashboard for all devices, regardless of their operating system. Visit collide.com/WW to learn more and activate a free 14-day trial today, no credit card required. And by Lenovo, orchestrated by the experts at CDW to help transform your organization with Lenovo ThinkPads, equipped with the Intel Evo platform for effortless connectivity and collaboration from anywhere. Learn more at cdw.com/Lenovo client. And by New Relic. Use the data platform made for the curious. Right now, you can get access to the whole New Relic platform and 100 gigabytes of data per month free forever. No credit card required. Sign up at newrelic.com/Windows. Hello, winners. Hello, dozers. You both are in the right place because it's time for Windows Weekly with our celebrity hosts. On your right, Mary Jo Foley, allaboutmicrosoft.com. The stunning new lime green ZDNet.com. Hello, Mary Jo.
Hello.
Hello. On your left, Paul Thurrant of Thurrant.com, which hasn't been redesigned since the late 90s. And it's ow.
It's not that old.
It's not even that old. It just looks that way. No, I'm kidding. I'm teasing. I love it.
Listen, I don't understand what your problem is with the default WordPress font, style.
Just out of curiosity, what template
I
are
have
you
no
using?
idea. I have no idea.
I think it looks good.
It is going to be updated soon.
I'm not knocking it. Well, yeah, now Mary Jo and CNET have put you to shame.
No. I don't think we. This was just something we need to do. It's not.
Yeah.
Bladed in any competitive.
Yeah. If it was up to me, you guys know me and graphics. Like if it was up to me, I'd be like, it looks fine. So what if it's 40 years old? It looks good.
Well, we had Jason Heiner on Twit on Sunday.
I saw you guys had him.
The EIC at ZDNet, and he talked about the 6-month design process and all that stuff.
6 months. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Ours has taken about 3 years so far, and it's not done. So let's
we also have
Jason
a bunch
over.
of designers too.
So the thing that I told Jason I really like is, and I think it's a trend now, is clean lines. Very simple.
Sure.
And that's something that websites over time cruftify. My site, which we went through an expensive redesign, what was that, 10 years ago? And it was very clean and simple. But as time has gone by, everybody says, well, we want this, we want that, we need this, we now have to have that. And then look at all this stuff. And so this all of this whole below the page thing is new. It's been added subsequently.
Yep.
This carousel is new, added subsequently. So it's what happens is time goes by, it gets cruftified. Sure. And then you got to, pay another $250,000 in 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
and uncruft it. But I like the design. I think it's nice. And I told him that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Should we talk about Windows?
What if we can? I don't want to be weird about it.
But Windows 11. There's a name for 22H2.
Well,
maybe.
Well,
a qualified.
This goes back. This is look, among my many pet peeves with Microsoft these days, and Windows in particular, and related to the subject that I think Mary Jo and I both agree on with when it comes to complaining, which is communications. Microsoft has always done a really terrible job of explaining what things are, giving things names. So the premise here is that based on some screens, one of my users sent me a screenshot of this. It looks like the update that will bring you to Windows 11 version 22H2 will be called the Windows 11 2022 update. Now, aside from the tongue-tying nature of what I just said, and two different ways of saying something, 22H2 versus 2022, this is something Microsoft has done in the past, where they've said, hey, you're running Windows, and then they'll say the name of the update. And no, you are not running that thing. And that's what literally this Microsoft update or Microsoft screen says. It says, you're now running the Windows 11 2022 update. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's the name of the update. It's not the name of the version of Windows. It's still, unless they could change this too, and that would be fine, but to date they have not. That version of Windows is called Windows 11, version 22H2. That's what you're running. You ran the update to upgrade to this version, but the name of the update is not what you're running, right? I mean, I know it sounds like semantics, except that if we're all speaking a different language, then we can't communicate effectively. Like, and Microsoft, this is a Microsoft screen. They do this routinely. They do this in the Windows Insider blog post. They'll interchange the name of the version of Windows with the name of the update that got you there.
Yeah.
And it makes me crazy. And I know it's
but you don't want to go back to like creators update and all that.
I don't know. Actually, you know what? I don't care. My point is, when it was the creators update, you were not running the creators update. You used the creators update to upgrade to Windows
I get it.
10 version.
I get what you're saying.
1809 or whatever it was. Yes.
Yeah.
So there's the update, which is the thing you're applying to get you to a point, but you are not running the update. You're running whatever that.
That's right. Both of those things have names. Both of those things are different things. Both of those things have different names.
What would be an ideal way to do this? I think the problem with creators is
numbers.
It doesn't tell you sequentially, so you need to do numbers. Right?
I love the number thing when we were doing like 1809, 1902. Like, what was wrong with that? That was good.
Right? Well, we still are, right?
But it wasn't tied. But the dates were a burden because what if they didn't get it out in those?
The other problem with this name is when you think about it, the very notion that there is a Windows 11 2022 update is insane. There have been several 2022 or updates in 2022.
Right.
So far, there will probably be another one. And this gets into another area. We've rebranded everything. We always talk about this. We used to have betas and release candidates. We would have the RTM version, GA. We had these terms, Now we have these rolling kind of releases, whatever. We have at least 3 weeks a month where cumulative updates are applied to Windows. Some of them advance the version number of the operating system, the build number. We have different ways to refer to all this stuff. And look, we can debate what the best system would be, I guess. But the problem is they keep changing how they name things, but they keep screwing up how they name things too. And I don't know.
You know what?
This is just my biggest pet peeve.
I think this is going to get worse if the rumors are true. Like if we are going to this new schedule where there's one major update every 3 years. So let's just say for simplicity, the next one is Windows 12, right? What do you call all the updates between now and then? Yeah. Especially if they aren't doing feature updates once a year in the second half of the year, which that's what Zach Bowden heard. He heard they may do away with that, right? So there might be 4 different updates, up to 4 different updates that are called internally moments. But what are we going to call them? Like how are we going to refer to you're on the one that came out in September versus the one that came out in February, right?
It's tricky enough to have to go to a company like Microsoft and say, what do you call this thing? Because I want to call it the right thing. And then to be told 3 different things because they have no idea how to call it, what to call it. And like I said, in some ways I don't really care. We had this conversation maybe a week or 2 ago, but I still believe they need to release something. We'll call it the 2022 update, the 2023. Right? Yes, because there are 2 things going on. They have to hand off this thing to PC makers, which I guess they could just update rolling over time. But they also have these licensable moments with their enterprise customers where a support lifecycle is tied to this thing.
Right.
You can't just do away with feature updates. That's how you determine the support lifecycle of a product. So, we have short-term support. We have longer-term support versions. Some updates are supported for a very short period of time. Some are longer. Like I said, I couldn't care less what the system is. I just want them to know what it is. I want them to be able to communicate it effectively, and I want to be able to explain what it is to other people who don't understand it. And they keep moving the ball there. But I don't feel like there's any I'd love to speak to someone who knew what this even meant. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's frustrating. I don't know if you can
Especially doing a book, I'm sure, or people who are trying to do any kind of documentation, right? Because you want to say the exact terminology that's being used, but if there is no like one standard, what do you do with that, right?
The story I always tell, and this is before things got really messed up, was in 2010. I think Microsoft announced Windows Phone 7 series at the time. I called my guys and I said, I'm writing a book about this. I will write the first book about Windows Phone. I need to come there immediately and I need to see this thing. And they said, you can come here. We can't give you one yet. It was too early. Come to the campus. We'll give you a phone. We'll lock you in a room, which is literally a dungeon. And you can take pictures of every screen. You can write down whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I did this. I did this for 2 days straight. And at the end of 2 days, I sat down. It was Charlie Kindle and I'm forgetting people's names now. Greg was there, Greg Sullivan. And someone else, the guy who's now long gone. But and I said, okay, I have a list of questions. And a lot of those questions were, what are these things called? And the answer was, oh, well, we don't really have names for those. And I said, no, you do have names for those.
Yeah, they have names because they have to discuss it.
No, they said, no, we don't. And I said, no. It's implemented in software. This thing in software code is called a thing. There is a name.
When you go and you sit in a room at a big table with a bunch of people, and you're talking about the thing, what do you call it?
Microsoft, they're like the parents that come home from a hospital with a baby, and people say, is it a boy or a girl? I say, boy, great. What did you call it? Oh, we haven't given it a name yet. Really? Really? You took it home from the hospital, and you don't have a name for him. Really?
So that happened to me in real life, but okay.
Oh, did it really? Okay. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I mean, I'm just saying.
Wait a minute. You had a baby? When was, or are you talking about your cat?
No. When I was born, my parents couldn't agree on a name for me. And so they brought me home from the hospital without a name. And the hospital kept calling them and saying, wait, you got to come up with a name for her. And they couldn't.
My point wasn't that.
It happens.
My point wasn't that it doesn't happen. My point is that when it happens, it's insane.
It's a big deal.
Like, their friends must have been like, what is wrong with you? You've had 9 months to think about this.
They were like taking votes
what
from
were the
people.
Names?
Like, what do you guys think?
What were the names that they were considering?
Well, so one name I was going to have was Margaret. That was my dad's mother's name.
Nice.
But my mom did not like it because she said, I don't want you named after somebody else. I want you to have your own name.
Oh.
And so then I forget what else they came up with. But I ended up being named after my mom's best friend who was from the South. And that's why I have a Southern first name, even though.
Mad Joe, bring me a piece of pecan pie. Come on, Mad Joe. I like Margaret.
Margaret's like
Foley.
A traditional Irish.
You could have been Maggie or Meg.
My dad hated that. My dad's like, I don't want her to be called Mo or Meg. I don't like that.
Yeah,
we were gonna have a third child that was between Mark and Kelly, and that child unfortunately was miscarried. And for a long time, I joked that child's name was Montpellier. And because what I wanted to do was go outside and be like, Mark, Montpellier, time for dinner.
Allons-y, Montpellier. Wow. Or Mont Blanc would be good, too.
Mont Blanc.
Are you a pen or a boy?
Mark Penn, his favorite guy from
Mark Penn.
Sure.
We I wanted to name our daughter Abby Abigail because I said, well, Abby's a nickname. If she becomes a judge, you want her to be Judge Abby? No, she should be Judge Abigail Laporte. Jennifer vetoed it. She said, no, Abby, because I don't want any other nicknames to come along. So you prepare it ahead of time. You say, this is the name and the nickname.
My name is so terrible.
Guys,
I want to make kids' names.
Paul's
naming is hard. But you know what? When you have 9 months to do it,
You should
You
have
can do it
by then. We wanted to call Abby Clara, and my mom said, no, that's Clarabelle the Clown from the Howdy Doody show. And we said, oh, no.
Right.
Yikes.
Can't do that one.
Sure.
That's one mistake people make is they tell people. And everybody's got an objection.
Well, I say my son's name is Mark because it's easy to spell, and my last name is really hard to spell. And then they say, how do you spell it? And I say M-A-R-Q-U-E.
I knew it, Mark. M-A-R. Well, I went to college with M-A-R-C-Q-K. So
There you go.
Wow.
At least it's another apostle. And of course, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So
We need more of those.
You need, God knows. Moving right along.
Yeah.
We now, it's okay. Are you done? I mean, are you happy? The Windows
No,
11,
I'm not happy, Leo. But
2022
No, he's
update.
very unhappy. He's very unhappy.
But I think the Windows 11 2022 update isn't bad. It's long.
Well, no. So, look, for whatever reason, because Microsoft had first half, second half updates for a few years, they moved from, well, they, remember, like Mary just said, they used to have 1803, 1809. 1903, 19. Well, they never.
But that's what this is doing. This is saying, no, there's only one in 2022.
Yeah,
and this
that
is
is
but it's actually not doing that because the version of Windows you're going to upgrade to is still called 22H2.
Oh no, I see your problem now.
Okay. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I see the issue.
Look, I don't know.
You know what I'm going to call it? I'm going to call it. No, I'm just going to call it 2209.
I already know. In the same imbecilic way that the question I asked about the charms was answered, that when I go to Microsoft and I say, so what do you call this thing? And they say, Paul, it's just Windows 11.
Yeah.
And then I say, I quit. I give up. It's because it's really not. It's not just that. Everything changed.
They don't want consumers to dwell, as we are, on the differences.
Look, I don't either. That's fine. I just look. This is a support issue. File Explorer alone has changed dramatically between the first version of Windows 11 and the second. Just all by itself. It's going to change dramatically again whenever they decide to implement tabs. Not because of the tabs, but because they're making major changes to the navigation pane. These are things I care about because I work on a book. But you know what? If I was supporting an enterprise or a business of any kind, this would also be a concern. Because sometimes you go to look at something and it doesn't look the same. And you have to be able to tell people why, or when it happened, or how, or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's just logic.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know. I know. I'm just standing in front of a giant tidal wave.
Old man
screaming.
yells at clouds, and in fact, the good news is that is in fact the header on today's show notes. So go ahead, yell. Go ahead, yell all you want.
I just cry softly to myself at night.
Killing me softly with his name.
There's a reason that's the header today, Leo, which is story 2.
Well, I do like the that's the old Windows 95 logo, is it?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So what's the story?
Today,
Morning Glory. Yes.
Today is the anniversary of the launch of Windows 95 27 years ago.
Start me up. You can start me up. Wow.
Do you remember the song they originally wanted for the theme song? It was not Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones.
What was it? No.
Does anyone else remember?
We Didn't Start
It's
the
the
Fire
end.
by Billy Joel.
No. The End of the World as We Know It by REM.
No, that's bad.
And
That's not good.
REM said no because they weren't, at the time, were not sellouts.
Unlike Mick and Company. 27 years ago.
Yeah.
That is mind-boggling.
Isn't it? I know. It really is.
Wow. That was a very exciting time because
It was.
Windows 3.1.1, from my point of view, was the first Windows that you would say, yeah, you know what? This is good. This is usable. And 95 was even better. And it really felt like, I remember Steve Jobs telling me that we had a 10-year advantage on Microsoft. And because they
for so many
fired
reasons,
me.
Steve Jobs is such a jackass. It is so Steve Jobs that what he was focused on was the look of the operating system, when in fact Windows had surpassed the Mac technically 8 years earlier or whatever. I mean, it is so him that what he was talking about was the Windows 95 UI. But actually, like you were saying, Windows 3.1.1 or Windows for Workgroups 3.1 both had 32-bit disk access, 32-bit RAM access. It did in fact have all the technical underpinnings that made Windows 95 what it was. What it didn't have was the shell update.
Right.
Right.
But that was already all in place.
I think even at the time he didn't say they'd caught up, but they were catching up because
of course.
because
Of course he would say
the people who fired him had not done enough with
Of course. He would have done it. Yeah, he would have done it.
I would have made it better, but they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
No. And this spurred a little convo between me and Paul this morning because I saw Brad Silverberg, who was the one running Windows 95 at Microsoft.
That's right.
Tweet today that it was the anniversary, and somebody said, and then they almost called this Windows 4 instead of Windows 95. And I'm like, wow, that would have been crazy. It was.
So actually, so you and I talked briefly about this today, but I've been thinking about this a lot since then. I went to look for that book and I couldn't find it. But here's the thing.
Oh, darn.
The previous year, I had gotten the Windows 95 betas, and then into 95 as well.
Yeah.
And those it was Windows 4. That was what it was called.
It was
Windows 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah, I think what Windows people, it's funny. In retrospect, this is not a big deal, but at the time, Windows 4, Windows 95 was delayed. And I think they wanted to make it a bigger deal. In fact, when you think about when they released it in August, it's the worst time to release an operating system for computers. And they wanted to make it seem like a bigger thing. And so they went with this more exciting, to them, branding. They did the big marketing campaign. They had the song, all that kind of stuff. So I think, honestly, Windows 95 let me think about. It might have been the last time Microsoft had really good marketing, frankly, around the pub. No, really. I mean, they really generated a lot of legitimate excitement with normal people who didn't care about this kind of stuff, and triggered a wave of PC buying, the likes of which had never been seen before.
That's true. Do you remember? I remember because I covered this and I was there at the launch, but there were all these TV crews, like regular TV crews, not tech specialists or anything, right? And they were going to stores at midnight to watch people line up to buy copies. And I remember them on the Seattle local news going up to somebody in the line and saying, "What are you in line for?" And the person's like, "I don't know. There were just so many people in line. I just got in line. I don't know what this is."
That's awesome. That's awesome. Right? So you won't be surprised to discover I didn't go to that because I was working on a book.
Yes, I'm not surprised.
But the event that I remember, so when Windows NT 4.0 shipped a year later when I was in stores, I was at a party that my wife's boss was having in Phoenix, and I had to I wanted to leave to go to the store to buy it. And somebody threw me in the pool. So I was like sopping wet from head to toe. So I went to Egghead or Software Etc. It was one of those type of stores. Yeah. And I walked into the store and I squished every footstep I took was like squish, 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 all the way to the back. I grabbed NT off the shelf. I walked up to the front, squish, 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 squish. And I remember the guy looked up from behind the register at the trail of water behind me, and he's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" Take my money, please. I got to get out of here. Anyhow, those were the days. Those were the days.
They were.
Well, happy birthday, Windows 95.
It just makes me feel so old, like thinking that was 27 years ago.
I pulled my, Brian Kernahan, who wrote C and Unix and wrote Awk. Well, and he's in the news because he's 80 years old and
That's right, and he fixed Awk.
He fixed Awk. He added Unicode to Awk. So that's cool. But then that made me think, I have the book, Kernahan and Ritchie's the C programming language. I went to get it.
Sure.
Looked inside. August 12th, 1982 was when I bought it.
Sure.
40 years ago.
Yep.
That made me feel very old. Very old. Kernahan was only 40 when I bought that book. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we're just we're the senior statesmen of technology now. Since you just told the story, I mentioned earlier, I pulled out the first edition of Petzold's Programming Windows. Classic.
It was published in 1988. The first version covered Windows 2.0.
Wow.
And Windows 386. And it just because it just happened to say in the beginning of, it says the author's name and it says 19, whatever the birth date is. And I looked at it and I said, Charles Petzold was 35 years old when he wrote this book.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
35
Same
years
thing.
old. I literally just had this.
Same reaction I did. Like,
yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
You know, Kernahan's 80.
Yeah. I love that he is still active.
still writing
not
code.
actively, but he's been sitting on this for a long time, and he said, I just got to try to fix this. It's really bothering me that we don't, support Unicode.
And then he's also working now on supporting CSV files. Yeah. But the funniest thing I thought was he sent the update in an email, said, because I know you've taught me Git, but I just can't get my head around it. So here's the code. Could you commit
he's
it?
not wrong there. He's not wrong there.
Could you commit that to the Git repository?
Git is not easy.
Anyway, a wonderful story.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. So you kids, you know, they're sitting there with your iPhones and your pads, your tablets. You know, there was a day when computing was hard. And
when computing was interactive, there weren't a lot of things going on. You got to write your own programs in many cases.
Yeah. Is there anything more up to date to talk about?
Anything more current?
A little more.
Yeah, there are
current?
a few builds.
Oh, okay.
A few new builds.
Okay.
So today, two sets of builds: Windows 11 for the dev channel, and 2 beta channel builds, because we're still doing 2 for some reason. Mostly fixes in both. There's a new touch keyboard command that is being tested in Windows 11. And there's one other feature that's associated with this build, but I'm saving that for the next section because I'm lining this up for the Thurrant rant, as we call them, Thurrant of the century. I think that's going to come in our next section.
Wow. Okay.
The Thurrant of the century.
And
I'll throttle all of you.
Yesterday, release preview got a build. Okay, so I've kind of lost the thread on the release preview at this point. So this build only went to people who are running Windows 11 22H2 already, because in release preview, you also have some people running Windows 10 builds, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably most of them are on Windows 11, but yes.
Yeah, I would think so. There was some new history capabilities in there where it's tracking your history of usage of things like camera and such that was in that build.
Oh, I didn't even see that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think I might have.
I think I put the wrong link in for today's. There's so many of these things now. I'm like,
this is unrelated to anything, but I've actually had a really hard time pasting URLs into Notion over the past few weeks. I don't know why. I'll come back later and they're not there, and I can't explain why that is. Yeah.
Yep.
So what you're talking about is, I think, usage history for various resources and settings, improved storage replication.
Yeah.
Most of this is really it's just enhanced Microsoft
things.
Defender.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the usage history for resources in settings is interesting. I don't know. I assume it's a privacy concern and a data. Maybe you can go in and say, I want to, kill this usage history, that kind of thing. I'm guessing, but I haven't looked at it yet because I'm on the beta channel, or I have the beta channel build, so I'm not getting these kind of updates, so I don't really see this stuff. So I'm not really sure what that even looks like.
Yeah. But at this point, the people getting builds in the release preview channel for Windows 11, they're getting builds for something that's beyond the 22H2 update, right? Like these features that they're previewing now aren't going to be in
this would require someone to have communicated something about who's saying what and when. Right. So I actually don't know.
So we don't really know. Yeah. Okay.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Is this the Thurrant of the century now?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Oh, good. Okay.
It's coming up.
No, this is just another silent acceptance of stupid. Just
Edge gets a sidebar.
It is interesting to watch people in the tech industry kind of come around to the notion that Edge is just too bloated now.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if it was Todd Bishop. I think it might have been Todd who just adopted Edge, and I was like, "What?" I'm like,
I really am loving Edge right now. I'm like, wow.
Timely adoption of this product. Edge started out as this beautiful thing that was Chrome with everything stripped away that you didn't need, especially all the Google stuff. Obviously, you had to replace the Microsoft account stuff. Fine. There's this set of functionality that we have from Classic Edge that much of which is still not available. So people complained or gave feedback, and we'll put some of that back in. And then I want to say sometime around, I don't know if it was last year, maybe earlier, they just started piling the features on this thing.
Yeah.
Some guy on Twitter said to me, he goes, hey, I got this prompt in Edge to follow a creator on YouTube. Have you ever seen this? And I looked it up. I've never seen it. And it does pop up, and it's part of Edge. It's not a YouTube feature. It's a way to follow someone on YouTube within
TikTok,
Edge.
YouTube.
I think I have it. Wait a minute. Is that what this is? This thing here? Is this side?
No, that's the sidebar. Yeah, that's the sidebar.
Not the YouTube. Oh, I just put it away.
No, actually, all right. So, do you know of a really popular YouTube channel? Like, if you went to,
sure.
Yeah,
Linus,
to go to YouTube.
Linus Tech Tips.
Go to Salt Hank.
Oh yeah, that's the YouTube channel. What am I doing here?
No, you got to go to. It has to have a lot of followers.
Okay.
So what you should see. Yeah, there you go.
Let me turn off the sound. Oh God, what's going on? Help me!
It
help
pops
me!
Up in the right of the address bar. I didn't.
I closed the. Unfortunately, this is my mistake. I put that
right there. There it's there.
Where?
It scrolled out. Like look at the right of the address bar and just refresh the page.
Look at the right of the address bar and refresh the page. There'll be something. Oh yeah, follow Linus Tech Tips.
There you go.
It just went away.
So that is.
But I
can.
It's. Oh, but there's still a button there. I've just now followed, and I can't unfollow.
This thing needs.
Oh, there it is.
But because what this thing needs is more buttons.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this. App available. Install YouTube. Read aloud this page. Follow creator. Add this page to favorites, and that's all in the URL.
Minimize everything on. Minimize Windows key plus D.
Okay, Windows key plus D.
Right-click the desktop.
Okay, right-click the desktop.
Silently regard the little string of icons. Actually, you don't see any because you don't. Sorry, you don't have anything in.
What would be here in your?
No. Sorry. What you have to do is you have to have something in the clipboard or have something selected. What happens is you get this little row of icons that are 100% non-knowable, right? When you think about like how this type of system's supposed to work, like you go to an airport, you don't speak the language, but you can still get around because all the little glyphs and hieroglyphics and stuff they use, just kind of universally makes sense, like an open door or an exit sign or whatever it is, an arrow, But when you do stuff in Windows, like, so it's like cut, copy, paste, share, and delete. Like delete makes some sense. It's a trash can. But like the rename icon or the share icon, I don't think any normal human being would have any idea what those things mean. And they save space by not putting them in the menu, right? So they're not text. Right. They're just little, not emojis, but little icons. And this is what Windows is now. And if you go back, sorry, Leah, but if you go back to Edge, you'll see that happening in the address bar area there. Bunch of little indiscernible icons, And they're all, you can mouse over them and find out what they are.
Right.
But what if you're using touch?
Right.
How would you?
Oh, you have to touch them, and then
look at all the buttons there. Just in that area, there's like 8, 10 buttons there.
Yeah.
What is all this stuff?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, these are things I've added, so that doesn't count. How do I get the sidebar to show up again, though? I've lost it. Oh, look, this menu's gotten big. Holy cow. Microsoft Rewards, here it is, show sidebar, Control-Shift / and then I can expand it if I want. Oops.
So there's a huge innovation in the sidebar that I think we should all silently celebrate.
Yes.
Which is there's a calculator in there.
Oh, hallelujah.
So finally Windows has a calculator. All sorts of things.
I can add tools, games, Office. Oh, it's about time. I need a calculator when I'm over at, I don't know what. Where's tool?
But you know what's not in there that should be is Notepad.
Look at that.
Oh, it will be, Mary Jo.
Oh, yeah. If you had Notepad, you wouldn't have to ever leave Edge.
No,
here's a
that's
dictionary.
the whole thing they're trying to think.
Well, look at
like
the
you
tools.
don't have to switch. Right?
Here's a dictionary. Here's a translator. Here's a unit converter.
It's like you can.
Let's do the internet
in
speed test. It's got a little speedometer. That's cool.
So I use LastPass, right, with Edge, and because LastPass is on in Edge, none of this bloatware automatically shows up in my Edge
interesting.
browser. And I always look for, I'm like, where's the Edge bar? And I go to the setting and it says, because you have LastPass enabled, you can't have Edge bar turned on. And I'm like, oh, good. That's a good reason to use LastPass, right?
I use the
Yeah, really.
I use the Brave web browser. It has the same effect. I don't see any of that crap.
Yeah.
You know? So, I don't know.
It's kind of handy. I'm like, oh, this is nice. A little added benefit of LastPass.
It bugs me because I have not written this fully yet, but the Edge chapter of the book is basically how to turn things off.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
good. That's a good chapter.
Just regard this thing, realize you don't need it, and then get rid of it. You know, I wish it was more than that. You know, I wish it was better than that.
No, that's handy. I would get your book just for that chapter, in fact.
Okay.
I would.
Well, I would, yes. Okay. So there it is. Just came out. Enjoy it.
Finally. Finally.
Remember when
it's starting
Edge
to look like
used
Vivaldi is what it's starting to look like with all of
Exactly.
Yeah.
Edge used to be about using fewer resources
Right.
than Chrome. They used to have those contests. Remember,
Right.
they would do speed tests, and
Right.
and you don't really hear a lot about that anymore.
No.
I bet it doesn't compare too favorably these days.
Yeah.
I think the sidebar is an interesting feature.
I think some people are going to want it. I do think so.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I actually agree with you. But again, this is like that thing we discovered in the signature trials where some people like crapware, you know?
Some
I mean,
people
I think...
look, I
want
can
it
get a
to-
sidebar about the
stuff to be
scarlet
handy.
macaw.
Yeah.
I just feel like you can pin, because you can pin all your things that you use commonly on your taskbar, like why do you also need it in Edge?
Right.
Right?
Well, Edge becomes a
Calculator
second...
down there.
This.
It becomes a second point of UI, a second point of task switching, right?
Yeah, right.
I bet most people spend most of their or many people spend most of their time in the browser anyway.
Right.
That's why they added tab or browser tabs to the alt tab experience, right?
Yeah. Also collections. Yep.
So you can do everything in here. It's very much like Vivaldi.
I live in the browser. Like I'd say 90% of my day is in the browser, right?
I think so.
Well, now you can play Mahjong and get your
if I
work
want
done.
to. Yeah, or not.
Yeah, remember. Okay. Jeez. Boy. That's the same UI as the Mahjong game for Windows 10/11.
It looks like XP, to be honest.
No, but I mean, it's the same. It's the same, but it's the same. Like it's almost certainly that thing is a web app.
Oh, this is a web app for sure. I don't have this on my computer.
But I mean, like if you were to download this app from the store, this is what it looks like. It's,
Right.
I think it's identical.
Right. Boom. Look how good I am at Mahjong. Boom.
Hey, remember when you went to the web browser because you needed something for work?
What?
Do you remember that?
What?
Remember?
Oh, yeah.
I'm writing my
Wait,
novel
really?
right now. What?
Yeah. All right, let me just research this. Ooh, Mahjong.
I know so many writers who say the very first thing I do is uninstall Solitaire, sweep Minesweeper, all of that stuff. So I'm not tempted. But now, don't worry. You don't have to uninstall it. It's in your sidebar of your browser.
Yep.
Just, boy.
What a world.
Yikes.
What a world. This would be, if you don't mind, a little chance to take a stock of the world around us and think about what it is that you need in life to keep your business secure. How about that? How about Collide, our sponsor for this segment of Windows Weekly? The challenge with security, device security, really has always been it's hard to scale it, right? The bigger you are, the more edge cases you introduce, and the easier it is for significant issues to escape your notice. And don't even mention BYOD. And then there was remote work, right? And the challenge got exponentially harder. Whether you're a fast-growing startup that needs to graduate from managing device inventory in Google Sheets, or an enterprise trying to speed up service desk issues, you need visibility into your fleet of devices in order to meet security goals and keep everything running smoothly. But there's a little problem in a lot of businesses. Your design team uses Macs. Your accounting's on Windows. The developers, they like Linux. So you get Kolide, K-O-L-I-D-E, an endpoint security solution that gives IT teams a single dashboard for all devices, regardless of their operating systems. Kolide can answer questions MDMs can't. Questions like, do you have production data being stored on devices? Do you? Do you know? Are all your developers' SSH keys encrypted, or are they just sitting there in the clear on a shared drive? And a host of other data points that you'd have to write a custom shell script to learn about, or maybe take a walk down the hall and ask, and they don't know. Think about it. If a Linux vulnerability is exposed tomorrow, how will you figure out how many machines in your enterprise are at risk? File a ticket with a team that manages your MDM and then wait for days to get report back? No. Oh, I know. Let's send a mass email and hope the Linux users open it. With Kolide, real-time access to your fleet's data. And instead of installing intrusive agents or locking down devices, Kolide takes a user-focused approach that communicates security recommendations to your teams directly on Slack. You can answer every question you have about your fleet without intruding on your workforce. And I can tell you, your workforce appreciates it. Visit kolide.com/WW to find out how. If you follow that link, they're going to hook you up with a goodie bag, including a T-shirt. This is one of several models. I've got my Kolide T-shirt just for activating a free trial. Look at that. This one I like. Honest.security. Kolide. Isn't that cool? It's hurting me because I've been keeping them here instead of wearing them to the gym where I can show off my security focus. KOLIDE.com/WW for a free trial and your goodie bag, including a T-shirt. Or for you, Mary Jo, a beer coaster. Or two. Kolide.com/dubdub. We appreciate Kollide's support. I think you'll appreciate their product. And you'll help us a lot if you go to that special address so they know you saw it here. Kolide.com/WW. Now I can take those T-shirts home. Thank you, Kolide. All right. Back to work, you two. Enough.
I like the Pinocchio design on the shirt, by the way.
Is that? I thought it was little birds flying. I didn't even get it. It is. It's a little Pinocchios. Honest, I get it now. Honest security. Yeah. And there's one without a long nose. That's the honest one. I didn't even get that. And I take great pride in deciphering geek T-shirts. So.
I thought of it as a video game at first, but then I said,
Yeah, I thought it was birds or a cloud. Yeah. I should have paid attention. All right, back to the show we go, and I think it's time to talk Microsoft. See, even I have forgotten. Microsoft 365. Something to say about that, kids?
Yeah.
Have you lost interest, Paul?
I think based on the headline he put on his post about this, he does have something to say about it.
Could it be Thurrant time?
It could be.
Outlook Mobile now shows ads to all free users. Woohoo! Hey, if you're a free user, you can't expect not to see ads.
Okay, 100%. I hear you. As you might expect, I have an account that I use for the book that's clean. The idea is I have to take screenshots. If you watch Hands on Windows, you'll see that account there. It's not customized in any way because I'm trying to show what the thing really looks like. And this was last week sometime. I brought up Outlook.com, and yeah, you're right. It has ads. You know, there's like the column ad on the side.
Like Google, like Gmail,
yeah. And at the top, there was an email that said something about, it was like national, no. It was something to do with the Lehigh Valley, which is where I live.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wait a minute, this is a secondary account. I've never connected it to anything. How on earth does it know? I think it was like a concert venue or someplace I had been. So I clicked on it. and it loaded a website. And I'm like, wait, what? So I went back and I looked at it, and it's not an email. It's an ad that looks like an email. They put the top email is an ad. So I refreshed it, and the second time it came up, it was for National Geographic. And then I refreshed it again, and it came up.
But it looks like an email?
It looks like an email.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, but
Thurrant
that is
away, because that's ridiculous. That's evil. That's evil.
But go ahead, Mary. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Yahoo does this, right? I have a spam account, a Yahoo account. And
are we going to hold Yahoo up as the bar?
Yeah.
No,
Yahoo does it's okay.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, every time I see that ad on the top line, I get tricked every single time.
You think it's an email. That's the whole point, right? No,
right.
That's how malware acts.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying
when you
it's
impersonate,
acceptable.
that's unacceptable. But see, this triggered was. It's not just this, right? So this is Microsoft has started showing more ads. The story is they're showing more ads. They've been showing ads in Outlook Mobile for, I don't know, 2 years. But now they're showing more ads. They're showing this insidious kind of ad, which I think is awful. But there's also these other stories out in the world, right? We know that Apple is rumored by Mark Gurman, so Apple is going to be putting ads inside of Maps. Apple, the privacy company, the company that shut down third-party ads on their own system. You know, like this company has a big ad play coming. I'm going to be really interested to see how they handle that because, you know, they market themselves in a certain way. I'm really curious about this. But this triggers like kind of a broader thought on my part in a conversation, possibly a rant, about advertising. And you have some service, right? The world has changed from you buy a movie, bring it home, and you watch it on your TV to you do buy it, but you buy it digitally. That's not a good example. But you subscribe to Netflix and you watch movies that way, or you subscribe to whatever the service is. And you pay for that. And in my case, you pay and you pay and you pay and you pay because I have multiple people. I want the highest quality display because I have 4K displays. My children don't live in the same state as me, so I pay for the version that's a little more expensive. You know, I'm paying like $20 a month for this service. Soon I'm going to pay more because they're trying to rein in the interstate thing. But Netflix is trying to find more revenue. So they're doing different things. They have games now, they have whatever. But one of the things they're looking at and are going to do is ad-supported versions of the service, right? So instead of paying, you'll see ads. And I don't want that, but I appreciate that that's a choice, and that's fine. But there's like this insidious third choice, which I think we're going to start seeing in these services, whether it's Spotify or Netflix or whatever it is. And it's the system that newspapers have been using forever, which is that you pay for the product and you see ads. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of paying an astronomical amount of money to, in this case, the New York Times plus Wirecutter, and seeing animated ads that I cannot turn off between paragraphs of text while I'm trying to read a story. I don't understand this. Like, I don't understand it. And you know that it's only a matter of time before Spotify, like I said, Netflix, whatever, will have this version where you pay nothing and see lots of ads, you pay a little and see some ads, or you pay a lot and you see no ads. You know this is coming. And the thing that actually tipped this off for me wasn't Microsoft, it wasn't Apple, it wasn't the New York Times. It was just my day-to-day reading. I read many things, but one of the things I read is Google News. In Google News, the way it works is you have a feed, it's technology stories, and when you click on an article, it loads the article inside the app in a browser, but it's the site that produced the content. It's not like a reader view without ads, it's the site. Yeah. And I don't know if anyone has been on the web lately, but it is a cesspool of animated, non-stoppable video ads. It's unbelievable. It's the type of stuff where you have to click here to continue, or you scroll over an ad that gets in the way to get to see that kind of thing. I saw something the other day I have never seen before in my life, and it is horrific, which is the same autoplay, non-stoppable video ad between every single paragraph in a story. And I'm not talking big, thick Tolkien paragraphs. I'm talking one or two tiny sentences, poor grammar and spelling, and then two video ads on screen because I'm reading this tiny strip of text, and they're both animating away, and I've had it. I've had it. Yeah. I am going to actively do everything I can to block ads from entering any of my devices from now. I'm going to get a pie hole. I'm going to do on-device, whatever it is. I can't stand it. I'm happy to pay to not see this crap. But you can't. There's no option.
Next DNS. Go to nextdns.com or .io. Let me look it up.
Okay.
It's a pie hole in the sky hole. Nextdns.io. Okay. You put it on your router. I do it on my, well, I had to turn it off. So I did it on my router so that everything in the house, you not only have ad blocking, it protects you against security issues. It speeds up DNS. It has supervised internet for kids. You don't need that anymore.
Well, maybe I do. Maybe that's what I need for me.
No more adult content for you, Paul. But I had to turn it off because Lisa said, I can't see ads. I said,
right.
You're
welcome.
Right.
But see, Lisa
did you notice
sales.
everything was faster?
Lisa does ad sales for our network, and so she kind of it offends her, the idea that we might filter out ads. But
wow, I don't have that issue at my house, so
yeah, I'm ad supported. So
I can't take it. I can't take it. And I have a website that shows terrible ads. We have to, not because we're terrible people. It's the only way it makes sense financially.
Yeah.
All of these sites are doing the same thing.
My guilt about all this is I also don't want a free ride on websites. But I pay for the New York Times, the Atlantic, Vanity Fair, Wired, Bloomberg, the Washington Post. I pay for all of those. And as you point out, doesn't slow
I pay for almost every single one of those things you just said.
Yeah.
And the Washington Post, Wired, I don't remember what else you said, but I pay for those. And I've had it. I've had it. I pay enough for the New York Times. In fact, I pay too much. You know, the justification for paying and having ads back in the 1970s was there was this entire system of distributing the paper using child labor, by the way, but literal paper was being moved around the world so you could read the stories. It was expensive. These guys not only have no overhead today, they don't even have an editorial process anymore.
They don't even have fact checking.
What is it? What are you paying for? There's nothing. You're not paying for anything. So why am I paying so much? So you do no work, and I see ads. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. I'm done.
So you're saying
not doing this.
you're seeing these ads in the apps, right? Not the sites, right? Not the
I use
website.
apps, right? So it's So in my case, I read on an iPad. So and this is one of the tricks. Like if you just use a computer and you're using a web browser, you could use a browser like Brave. You could use various extensions, and you could block these things for sure.
Yep.
I don't. I'm using a mobile app on a platform like iOS or iPad OS. You see this on your phone. You would see it on an Android device. Whatever. By the way, you see ads on TVs. If you have a Samsung Smart TV, you get Samsung promotions.
Oh, yeah.
If you have a Roku TV, there's ads right in the main interface.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm done.
It's out of control.
I'm done.
It's totally out of control. I was talking to Doc Searles about this just before the show because he wrote the Clue Train Manifesto, and he's always been advocating for consumers and telling businesses it's good for you to pay attention to what your consumers, what your customers are saying.
What a crazy idea, Leo. Are you sure about that?
But it's just gotten worse and worse. And, he observed the same thing. He's still on a crusade at 75. He's still pushing hard for it. But I just told him, I said, it's late stage capitalism. This is the world of crap.
This is like the fall of the Roman Empire is what this is. This
feels
is stupid.
That way sometimes.
Companies are harming themselves by offering terrible experiences to their own users.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
No,
but it's tragic.
Clue Train is 22 years old.
Yeah.
He wrote it, 2 decades ago saying, listen to your customers, have a conversation with your customers. Don't trick. That's a dark pattern that Outlook's using to trick you into clicking an ad.
It's like I said, it's not, these aren't bad people being bad necessarily. In the early 2000s, Google AdSense or whatever kind of came into being. And there was this golden period of a few years where you could make a lot of money just displaying ads on a web page, and they were not obnoxious. And Google lowered the terms, and it got awful over time. And I'll say it's impossible for any business to survive just serving ads, unless you are specifically one of those listicle spam sites where you can't believe what this celebrity looks like today. Please click through the 127 photos, none of which, by the way, are that celebrity. That kind of thing. Like that. That's the world we live in, and it's awful. And I'm tired of supporting it. And I wish I wasn't part of it.
Well, You should get, I'm going to try to get Cory Doctorow on. You should get his new book, How to Destroy Surveillance Capitalism.
Wow. Okay. Jeez. All right. That's gotten rather aggressive.
Yeah. No. So my biggest problem with this is, okay, I agree with the premise. Microsoft could say you get served ads if you don't have a subscription. But I feel like there's another factor at play here that I hate even more than that, which is there's a focused inbox angle to this.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. This is actually, sorry to interrupt. This is going to be Mary Jo's rant.
Okay, good.
Because
I thought I kind of reined it in there, but let's see how this goes.
No, so focused inbox to me is the spawn of the devil. Okay, that's my starting
I love
point
focused
here.
inbox.
We're just no, it's terrible.
Okay.
It doesn't work.
Okay.
I know I'm going to hear
sister.
from every person who loves it. I'm going to hear from every person who loves it because for some people it works. There's a focused inbox is a feature that Microsoft says uses AI to sort mail that's important to you versus mail that is not important to you or maybe spam. Every time I've used it, all my important mail goes into the spam and all my unimportant mail goes into the other one. It just doesn't work for me. I don't know why. It doesn't. So if you are someone who's using focused inbox in Outlook, the way this has worked up till now is all these ads that are very misleading and ones that even look like emails are going into your other folder and staying out of your main folder. I think the reason Microsoft is turning up the ads is because they want more people to use focused inbox. I really do. I think this is part of this.
Wait. We got to parse this one for a second. Hold on. I'm trying to understand if that makes sense. So if you have focused inbox on, will you not see ads?
Yes, that's what they're saying. They're saying the ads will be in your other folder and you won't see ads in your main folder.
But how could they be in my other folder? Those are not emails. Okay. Right. Wow.
But I really wonder, and I just threw this out there on Twitter yesterday, and I have like 30 or 40 likes, so I think I'm not the only one who thinks this might be part of why they're doing this. Maybe it's not just to get subscribers. Maybe it's also to try to force more people to use focused inbox because they really want you to use this.
There has been an escalation in Microsoft ads just this past year, even this past 6 months. I think the like of which I don't think we've ever seen, right? We've known that Microsoft has wanted to be part of this business. Remember when Google bought DoubleClick, whatever number of years ago? Yeah. Microsoft went to Plan B, which was a company no one ever heard of, Quantive, I think it was. Which they ended up writing down or off or whatever they did. It was a complete waste of time and money. Yeah. But, we've questioned over the years, why do they keep Bing around? Why do they keep MSN around? Why do they do these things? Well, because even if they're like a distant number 2, it's still a lot of money. And they're not even a distant number 5, but whatever they are. Yeah. But they're certainly trying, not for lack of effort. Yep. I mean, the systems in Windows 11 that force you to use their browser and their online services are unbelievable and are very real. But you can only put that in front of so many people, millions, maybe tens of millions. The number of people that would see something on a mobile device, potentially hundreds of millions, right? Yeah. More, I don't know. But, Outlook Mobile, whatever the user base is, it's probably tens to hundreds of millions any given day. That many people seeing that many ads is going to have an impact. And it's going to be a moment of confusion like it was for me when I click on something and go to a web page and don't see an email open. I see like a web page open in a new browser, or a new tab rather, and I'm confused by that. But then so why would they? I'm trying to understand the payoff.
They want people to use focused inbox because I think the more people that use it, it's like an AI program, right? So it's training it to supposedly be more accurate. And this, they think, is an advantage of Outlook. To me, it's just nothing but an annoyance of Outlook. But
right.
Yeah.
Microsoft has a rich history of what I'll call nanny technology. It looks like you're trying to write a letter type thing, trying to outthink the user. When in fact, I think most people are unencumbered by this and would simply like to just go email to email and don't really care about this kind of filtering. In fact, I think one of the most freeing things I ever did was when I moved. I don't remember what I moved to or from, but I switched from a system where I had folders of, with filters that I handmade to make sure things went to certain places. And after a while, you're like, search works fine. Maybe just show it all in one folder, one view, and I'll just archive everything and not worry about where it is, that kind of thing. That to me, that was very freeing.
Yeah. The thing, I mean, I can't say enough how much I dislike Focus Inbox, just because, not only because it doesn't work, but because every single time I set up a new PC, they turn it on, even though in my preferences it says, turn this off. Every single time, right? They really want you to use this and try it. And it's like, okay, give it another chance, though. Now it's better because we've had more people use the AI. No, it's still terrible.
Yeah. Right? Microsoft have significantly undermined this sync capability they have. In Windows 11, it's almost non-existent. In Office, I've complained about this for years. I go through I could document, I could do it right now and tell you exactly every single step. But when I set up a computer for the first time in Word, I go through a very discrete series of steps to configure it exactly how I want it. It doesn't save any of that stuff. I mentioned how I use this secondary account for the book, and just in one of life's other weird coincidences, I actually assigned this account at Microsoft 365 from my family thing for whatever reason. And so now I can use Word there. And the one thing that syncs, by the way, it's crazy, is the theme you use. So if you have like a dark theme or a light theme, like that syncs.
That works. Yep.
Guys, seriously. There are 1,100 options I could make, and that's the one you chose. That's the only one that syncs. I know. It's crazy.
Also, another tip from a non-tipping type person here. Outlook.com. Make sure you have your ad blocker turned on, because I never see ads in Outlook.com.
Oh, interesting. That's where I saw that.
And it says, here's what it says. It tries to fake you out. It says, it looks like you're using an ad blocker. But if you want to maximize space in your inbox, you should just sign up for the ad-free version. No, this has nothing to do with that. None. Zero. Like, it's just keeping me from seeing the ads.
I saw that. I saw it. You're right. That's right. And it wasn't trying to sell you on Microsoft 365. It was trying to sell you on storage, like basically, like an Outlook Premium thing or whatever they call it.
Right.
Or ad-free Outlook. Whatever the heck
ad-free Outlook. Ad-free Outlook. Yep. So,
you guys are starting to sound like radical hippies.
I know. We are.
We've had it. We've had it.
But there's one more ad thing, just to keep the fuel going.
This is insane, by the way.
Then I'm going to do an ad, so keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Yes. Today's build of Windows 11 in the dev channel has a line at the end that says, by the way, starting today, we're going to start testing ads in search in the Microsoft Store.
Oh my God. Apple's doing this. Apple's been doing it for a while. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Apple's gotten in trouble because you'll search for Spotify. I'll just use a simple example, and Apple Music comes up first, right?
Yeah. But they also do ads for third-party apps. They make a lot of money, billions on ads.
Of course they do. Yeah, it's a huge business for them.
And Microsoft sees that, and they're like, we want that business too.
And the thing is, the good news is you can turn off application tracking on your iPhone, and Apple still gets all the data because they're first party. Microsoft still gets all the data when you use Bing or Edge or Windows.
This is the gatekeeper problem, right?
Yeah, they're the first
Google
party.
sees what people are searching for, so they know what services to launch. Yeah. Amazon sees what people are searching for, so they know what to rip off and sell as an Amazon Basic. Apple sees what people are searching for, and they know what app or service to copy and create. It's so obvious and so classic. Why wouldn't Microsoft want part of that?
Yep.
You know, this is the most frustrating thing about Windows. No, that can't be. This is at least the second time I've said that today. But one of the most frustrating things about Windows is you can go into settings. And there's a this is like crazy. There's a privacy and security thing, right? There's got to be like a million options in there. And you can click things and check things and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. This thing's going to track everything you do no matter what you select. Yeah. Have fun with that. And there are a couple of meaningful setting changes you can make, a couple. But the thing you can't do is actually just turn it off. You can't turn it off.
There are solutions out there. They're a little radical. Corey's new book, I got the name wrong, is Choke Point Capitalism.
It's like English nanny capitalism.
Yeah, but he's got a proposal. When I was talking to Doc earlier, he said, we need a lobby for machine-readable privacy policies that you put on your computer, and every site you go to, it has to agree to your personal privacy policy, and it's automatic.
Wow.
I mean, there are ways to solve this. I don't have high hopes for them being solved.
No.
We try. I mean, honestly, one of the things I like about our model is we don't track people, and people buy our shows because they're for geeks. So we get, those advertisers who want to speak to geeks, but it's not, following you around kind of advertising.
Right.
I mean, look, I've spent almost 50 years in ad-supported media, radio and TV and podcasting, and I like the model because you can get the shows for free. But that's why we added Club Twit, by the way. I
like when there's a choice. I think when there's a choice, it has to be two choices. There's ads or there's no ads.
Right.
And
you give us $7 a month. There's no ads. There's no tracking. There's nothing.
Yep.
And we aren't going to put ads in this ad-free Club Twit versions. We don't even put ads for Club Twit in that.
Right.
And I agree that's double dipping, and it bothers me when companies both charge you. But everybody does it. Everybody does it now. Podcasting is the one last bastion, and you know what? Now that Spotify and iHeart are eating up podcasting, YouTube, Google, Microsoft, and Apple, they're eating up podcasting. Stuff like what we, independent podcasts like ours aren't.
They're devourers of worlds.
Yeah,
it's
that's the choke point in choke point capitalism, by the way.
Yeah,
Corey says it's like if your kid goes to school with $5 for lunch, and at the door of the school there's a bunch of toughs who say, "Give me your money," and you give it to them. The answer isn't solved by giving your kid $10 next time. They just take more, right? Yeah. Right. The trick is to get rid of the choke point,
right?
To bypass the choke point. And so we'll get Corey on, and he can explain it better than I could. But anyway, welcome to the modern world. And I think you're right. I think it's both a Thurrant and a faux rant. But I think both of you are absolutely right. This is ridiculous. This is out of control.
So this book is coming out in September, by the way.
Yeah, he's doing a Kickstarter to raise money because he doesn't want to sell it on Amazon or Audible.
Okay. Because Leo, I'd really like to listen to it as an Audible book.
They're the choke points, right? 90% of people who listen to audiobooks have to listen to Audible. So they have complete dominance in that market. So we're trying not to be a Spotify. You can listen to us with Spotify, but you don't have to. That's the point.
Sure.
And we do that either with the club, or we monetize with the club, or with ads. We do. I mean, I'm also very careful on advertisers. We don't. There's a lot of. I don't want to shame people, but there's advertisers that come to us where I go, no, we're not going to do it. No. But today, our show is brought to you by a fine company you might have heard of, CDW and Lenovo. This episode of Windows Weekly brought to you by Lenovo, orchestrated by the experts at CDW. The helpful people at CDW understand that as the world changes, your organization needs to adapt quickly to be successful. So how can CDW keep your business ahead of the curve? Lenovo ThinkPads, baby. These powerful devices deliver business-class performance you're looking for thanks to Windows 10 and the Intel Evo platform. With your remote teams working across the country and around the world, collaboration isn't a problem because Lenovo ThinkPads keep your organization productive and connected from anywhere. Plus, CDW knows your workforce has different work styles, right? They need flexibility, which is why Lenovo ThinkPads are equipped with responsive tools and built-in features that let your team work seamlessly across those favorite tools. Think about that for a second. That's what people want, isn't it? That's what makes you happy, customers happy, and that's what CDW and Lenovo do. Let's not forget about security. These high-performing machines protect at the highest level, built-in hardware to guard against modern threats without slowing your team down. So, when you need to get more out of your technology, Lenovo makes seamless productivity possible. CDW makes it powerful. Learn more at cdw.com/Lenovo client. That's cdw.com/Lenovo Lenovo client. We thank him so much for supporting Windows Weekly. Now, that wasn't hard. that wasn't painful. It's over now. We can move on, talk about other wonderful subjects, such as the Unified Outlook app, Project Monarch. Mm-hmm. You know, I thought Monarch might come not from the butterfly or the king, but the idea of mono, right?
Oh.
One interface to rule them all, kind of.
Wow. That's actually possible.
Does that make sense?
It does.
I saw somebody said it came from some TV show or some superhero thing. I don't know.
Project Monarch, wasn't that like a NASA, wasn't that like an alien thing?
I like the idea of a unified UI, right?
Yeah.
I do too.
Right. So, yeah, the idea.
You know who doesn't?
Of this,
people who use Outlook.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. They do not. No, it's funny. Like Paul said last week, you move one thing in Outlook and people are just like, okay, I'm done. I'm like switching emails. Like, I don't like that this button is on the left and not on the bottom anymore. Like, we're finished. Like, that's over, right?
Partly that's because the switching cost on email is very low, isn't it? Right? Your email's the same.
Yeah.
It's just the tool you use to get it. I can change email clients in 5 minutes.
You can. Yeah, you can. Yep.
Yeah.
But Microsoft's idea with Monarch, also called One Outlook, it wasn't to really help users so much. It was more to help Microsoft, right? So the idea was by having a single code base for the web, Windows, and I think it was supposed to be the Mac also, that they could more quickly update the code and streamline how it rolls out across all the different platforms and make it easier on them, right? Indirectly benefiting customers. So when they rolled this out for Windows in May, there was a preview that people could start using if they were business customers and they had a Microsoft 365 account. Though it was missing a lot of features. And one of the features that was missing was support for personal email accounts. You couldn't add like your Gmail account or even your local Microsoft account to it, Outlook. You couldn't add that. But now, as they're continuing the preview, you can now add personal emails to this. It's still considered a preview, this Project Monarch client, but now they're starting to add some of these missing features. So that's good. It's moving forward, I guess. It's still missing a bunch of other features that people were asking for. So I don't know when they're going to designate this as final or GA or whatever, but everybody who you hear talk about this says, wait, I thought this was supposed to be a huge update to Outlook, right? I thought this was going to be some massive, like, brand new thing. It looks like Outlook for the web. I'm like, yeah, that's what we told you all along. It looks like Outlook for the web. That's how they...
I fell into this trap too, though. It was delayed so much. I thought there's got to be something else going on, and then you look at it, you're like, no, it's just Outlook for the web.
Yeah, it's fine. I used the preview. I was like, it's okay. Like, it looks like Outlook to me. But anyway,
yeah.
There you have it. Then there's Whiteboard.
Sorry.
Another app, Whiteboard, which I have never used because I don't really participate in those kinds of group collaborative sessions where people use whiteboards at work or at home or however people use whiteboards. But the thing that's surprising to me is how much effort Microsoft is putting into the Whiteboard app. This week on the Microsoft 365 roadmap, they listed like 10 new features that are coming to Whiteboard in the coming weeks and months, as they like to say. All kinds of things like URL links in Whiteboard will be clickable. Users will have the ability to invite users on a whiteboard during a Teams meeting to follow their viewpoint as they navigate and interact with the canvas. Adding a timer to Whiteboard so you can run timed activities like a time brainstorm. Like, there's just no end to the list of features. And all I can think when I hear this is, so what about the Loop app? Like, where is this? There's been absolutely no mention of this app. You know, the app that is the complement to what Microsoft's doing with the Loop components. Loop components are really cool. This is the idea. You can have
the Notion-like thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
The
I'm
Notion-like
dying for
thing
this.
is
Where
missing.
is this?
No one knows where this is. And I thought that would kind of overtake Whiteboard, or somehow like dovetail with Whiteboard. And so far, there's been no word at all about where this app is. They announced it, and there's been nothing since then.
It's probably hard to do.
Yeah, probably.
But I think developers would love this.
I think a lot of people would love it if it works like Notion.
Yes. Yes.
Which is it looks a lot like Notion. Like Notion's not too happy about Microsoft building an app that's a direct
Maybe
clone.
that's what's slowing it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I just am surprised because when I heard about Notion and read about Notion, not Notion, about Loop, the Loop app, I thought, okay, this is going to replace Whiteboard, right? Like it's a canvas where people can all collaborate together, and it can be like a to-do app, but it also can be like a project management app. I thought this would be the new thing, but so far it's just nowhere in sight. I haven't heard a word. Have you, Paul? Anything at all?
No.
Nothing, right?
I honestly thought this was going to be the year there'd be a big push at build, and then it would kind of ship in time for it could still happen at Ignite, I guess, but
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Not a thing.
The Loop components are rolling out. Like those are becoming available
where
for
do you
Outlook,
use them?
for Teams. So you use them in Microsoft apps. So like in Teams or in the new One Outlook.
Okay.
The new One Outlook Monarch thing, you can embed Loop components in that, right?
Yeah.
It's very cool, but I'm like, but I still wanted to see the standalone app because that seemed kind of like the ultimate.
I'll definitely look at it. I
realization
would
of
consider
it,
moving from Notion for that if it made sense, but
yeah,
I don't know where it is.
we'll see. Nope.
So, whatever.
Yeah. I keep looking because they've got a lot of their projects. The Loop team has a lot of things on GitHub in their repositories, and I always am looking for the app. I'm like, there's nothing there.
Yeah. Well, they obviously have an app, right?
It's got to exist somewhere, but where is it?
They're writing to it.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of, this is an old idea, like HyperCard on the Mac. The idea was you could add binary components to your deck. It was a stack of cards, and it really was revolutionary in its time. And then Google did Wave, same idea, which is, and even some all-in-one office work solutions like Microsoft or Microsoft Works, right, or ClarisWorks on the Mac. The idea was, I don't know if you do this Microsoft Works. With ClarisWorks, you could embed the spreadsheet into a word processor and vice versa. They were all kind of componentized. I think this is...
Office supports that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is back to what Microsoft was thinking about with Olay.
Yeah.
And
this was built into the design of Windows 95 that we were just talking about earlier.
27 years ago.
Notion of compound documents.
Right.
Yep.
Longhorn was supposed to be document-centric, right?
Yes.
Well, it was object-oriented. Like Windows 95 didn't go far enough, obviously, but it was. They would say it was object-based.
Right? Because the premise is, we've been tied to documents because we had pieces of paper and file folders and stuff, but that's not how people think or work.
Right. Sure.
And so, why does a computer have to be tied to this, notion of a page? Doesn't make sense. Apparently, it's a hard computer science problem.
I was literally thinking that exact phrase. I think it really was, actually, in that case.
That's what they say.
Because it's failed again and again.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what is So Whiteboard's not Loop.
No.
No, but it's. I think the way to put it is it's one of many Microsoft products that can integrate with Loop components.
Yes.
Like Teams and Outlook are the two big ones, but
so I know you don't care about Apple at all.
No.
But at WWDC, their developer conference in June, they announced a new Whiteboard tool for Mac, and everybody's going, what? Why? There's third party.
Right.
Why? And I think Microsoft and Apple both have this same idea. Yeah. We need a framework.
What was they're going to revive OpenDoc or what was the thing?
OpenDoc. That was it. Yeah.
What was the thing they did with IBM?
Pink.
Pink.
Project
was it
Pink. Taligent?
I think it was Pink.
Taligent.
Yeah, one of those things.
But again, everybody's.
It was that era. It was the 1990s. Everyone was looking at object orientation.
Yeah. Alan Kay wanted to do this. The Macintosh was originally supposed to be that. Like not a document-centric operating system. But
they could draw windows discreetly. That was enough. Back in 1983.
Those days, you didn't.
That was.
But maybe we finally have enough computer power, RAM. I mean, it needs a lot of RAM, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
A lot of horsepower to do this. Maybe it's just that we didn't have enough.
Or maybe this is like the focused inbox thing, and all I really need to do is see one thing at a time, and I'm kind of a simple person, and I don't really care.
Well, isn't that funny? Yeah. Because Apple's doing all this stuff now to have multiple windows and stuff. And actually, mostly the way I use both Mac and iPads are full screen.
One window at a time. Yeah.
And then I slide it over, and then I'm doing that window, and then I slide it back.
Same.
You too? You guys too?
Mm-hmm.
You know what, though? I actually think that's the way people's brains work best. I think when you have too many things going on at once, it's distracting. And I think you lose focus, and I don't think you work as well.
Well, Microsoft's premise is you do it on 2 monitors, right? Because that makes you more productive.
Yeah, I'd like to see the data on that. But I think what we do know, scientifically speaking, is that people are terrible multitaskers. Just ask anyone who's tried to send a text message while they're driving a car.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I feel like 2 monitors does make sense. Like, I understand that idea. Like, you keep something that you don't look at quite as much on a smaller monitor to the side. Okay. But, that was their whole thing about the Duo, right? Like, it's got a hinge. It's 2 screens. You're just going to be more productive, right?
I mean, productivity goes through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you say so.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving right along. Shall we go to IoT, the world of the Internet of Things?
We should.
I'm intrigued by this.
Yeah. So last week, Google, Google's famous for Kill by Google, killing a lot of consumer products. Right. Last week, they just quietly announced they were killing this thing they have called the Iot Core Service. So Iot Core Service is like the core of what they're doing with IoT. And the reason this was surprising to me was if you think about what is one of the biggest workloads fueling the growth of the cloud, all 3 of the big cloud vendors, AWS, Microsoft, and Google, would agree, at least up until now, that IoT and edge computing was one of the biggest workloads for the cloud. That's why you kept hearing Satya say intelligent cloud, intelligent edge. Like, they go together. This is where we're putting a lot of focus. So Google shutters this. No explanation other than, you know what? We have partners doing this. We don't really need to do this ourselves. And I saw a story in TechCrunch saying, you know what we think they're going to do? And this holds a lot of weight because I was trying to think, why did they do that? They're so busy trying to compete, especially with Microsoft, in the main part of cloud computing and attracting enterprises to use their cloud, that maybe they're just like, let's focus on that. And IoT's over here, and like, we're not doing a great job with it, and let's just put that over there, right? Okay.
They're a very distant number 3. I think
they are very distant number 3.
Focusing on maybe something they might be able to do well does make sense. Although,
it does.
Not to get off on a sidetrack, most IoT devices today are embedded Android type devices.
Yes.
It's weird to me that Google, which makes Android, has not been able, which is based on, it's Linux, it's embedded Linux. Android is based on Linux. I mean, it's weird to me that they haven't been able to make a go of that either.
Right.
But they are. But neither is
Google
Microsoft.
Can't make a go of nothing. Are you kidding? This is the weirdest company ever. If it's not search and ads in search, then forget it.
Yep.
They just botch it.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was curious when I heard about this. I'm like, so what is Microsoft doing in IoT and edge computing? Like, we haven't heard a lot about that lately. So I started digging around and I found out that they had a huge reorg at Microsoft in April where they took their IoT and edge teams and they just mushed them into Azure. And I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense in a way, right? Because a lot of what Microsoft's been doing with IoT is they're doing services in Azure that connect IoT devices in various ways to the cloud. So I started asking Microsoft for interviews about this. I'm like, hey, can you guys talk to me about what you're doing in IoT and edge? They're like, nope. I asked them in April. I asked them in May. I asked them in June. I asked them in July. Still, no, we're not ready to talk about this. So I'm like, okay, either there's nothing going on and they got nothing to say, or there's a lot going on and they're saving it up for like Ignite, right? So I dug around a little more. There were some sessions at Build this year about what Microsoft's doing with IoT, and a lot of it involves Kubernetes at the edge, which is kind of interesting, like the idea of putting your workloads at the edge into containers that you can then use as like edge devices where the sensors connect to these edge computing platforms.
Okay.
That's one
is there
big
anything
thing they're
about,
doing.
what about Azure Sphere and that kind of?
Yeah. So they're also doing a lot of work on the clients, right? So Azure Sphere is the Linux microcontroller operating system that they built. They're doing a lot still there. They're doing a lot with Azure Stack, the Azure Stack family. So all the on-premises stuff that they've been building, like hybrid computing stuff, they're Arc enabling a lot of stuff. So that means they're making everything. Their goal is to make all these Internet of Things devices manageable from their own platform, from their Arc platform and the cloud. So they've got a lot of different pieces like moving around and kind of coming together. And I'm very interested to see what they're going to say about this, if they do say something at Ignite, because I feel like they've got a lot going on all parts of the IoT and edge computing front. But maybe they just can't explain it yet, or maybe they're just not 100% sure kind of how they're going to explain it publicly. But they're doing the opposite of Google. They're like really doubling down on what they're doing in IoT. So it's definitely something we all should keep our eyes on. Even you, Paul. I know. I'm not saying a field guy, but
No, I'm interested in this. I felt for a while like the IoT world has kind of continued along without Microsoft's help. You know.
Yes.
But I felt that way about Google too. You know, Google has done little various things. And walked away from them and whatever. But, you know, I don't know.
We'll be talking about this next on Twig because, of course, Stacey Higginbotham is the IoT expert.
Yeah.
And I think
like
she was
to know,
very happy about the Microsoft IoT.
But
there's a ton. AWS is doing a ton in IoT, consumer, enterprise, the whole gamut.
So
they're
that's
really
actually
right.
That's where I wanted to go next. So I think the question I would ask Stacey is, when you look at the big tech firms, and I guess primarily here we're talking Amazon, Microsoft, Google, what is their footprint other than the cloud stuff? In other words, like obviously AWS is used for whatever, right? But but are any of these companies actually big players in IoT directly? And if not, like, what is the IoT market? Is it like the Wild West, like the personal computer market was in the very early 1980s, where it's a bunch of smaller players?
Because you have a lot of Chinese companies that don't play along.
Okay.
But there's been a movement to get more security into IoT. And that's what these companies are offering is a back end that provides more security. And I wonder, Matter might supersede all of this. And I'm trying to think of what matters. What does Matter use?
Matter is like
one
the
of
World
them?
Wide Web or something of IoT. Or
it's supposed to be the lingua franca, because that's one of the other problems with IoT and home automation is you got Zigbee, you got Z-Wave, you got Wink, you got all these different things that don't talk to one another. So Matter was supposed to unite that world. And then I would bet there's a security play also with Matter.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's a huge security play with Microsoft because they will say, we're building out this whole platform around Azure Active Directory and our identity standards. And what if we could also bring IoT into that too and secure it from our cloud? And that way, you know, it's secured by Azure.
I'm looking at their website. They have an article on building a secure IoT. And they have
who are you looking at? I'm sorry.
Matter. Because Matter is the industry-wide. Microsoft's a player, Apple's a player, Google, everybody. They're calling it the Distributed Compliance Ledger. It's a blockchain. Oh, crap. That will attest to the provenance and performance of a device behind the scenes when a device connects to a Matter network. I don't know if they're prescribing whose back end you need to use.
I can't imagine they do.
No, Microsoft's big area, I think, where they're going to push as having an advantage is the edge, right? So you have IoT devices, but they connect to the edge computing fabric, right? And the idea is you bring, in order to reduce latency and improve performance, you bring your edge computing platforms closer to where the sensors are and where the end user devices are, right? So Microsoft has a good play there because they're doing all this stuff with hybrid. And, you know, when we think of edge device, a lot of people think of like small devices. They think of like microcontrollers and that kind of thing. But edge devices can be data centers. They can be servers, right? And it just is where you do the compute closer to the endpoints, like the sensor endpoints. So I think that's where we're going to hear more from Microsoft. That's my prediction. is on the, like what Satya calls intelligent edge, right?
Okay.
More to come. I think this is going to be something we hear a lot about the rest of this year. Prediction.
This will be a great conversation with Stacy too. So
yeah,
and I'll report back to you. You don't have to.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you don't have to listen to the show or anything like that.
I subscribe to her newsletter. Her newsletter.
I don't know if you know how busy I am
is
during the
great,
daily way.
and she really does follow this stuff and is a total
her
nerd.
newsletter is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she's like into stuff like I'm like no one else cares and
Deep.
follows it, and it's great she does.
Yeah, exactly. So she'll have a lot to say about this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. I'm sorry, Mary Jo. Your time is up.
That's okay.
Time to talk Xbox with the Xbox man
Most
himself.
of this is actually third-party stuff, but or non-Xbox
gaming
stuff.
Let's just talk gaming then.
Yeah, just the way it worked out this week. I wish I could tell you that Bethesda, which is part of Microsoft, is having an unbelievable sale right now because QuakeCon just happened for the first time in 2 years or whatever. But it ended, I believe, and there was a period of time there for over 5 days or whatever it was where you could get all those early versions of Quake and Doom and everything else for like a couple of bucks, like $1.24 to whatever. That's over.
Nice.
I'm sorry. It's over. But the good news is if you are on, also announced at QuakeCon, if you are on PC Game Pass, there's a couple of interesting things happening. One is in tandem with the show, they released a bunch of games to PC Game Pass. We don't actually talk about that too much, but obviously this is the version of Xbox Game Pass for PCs. The big things in my mind are the Wolfenstein and Quake games, of course, because that's where my brain is. But Quake 4, classic. Quake 4, if you can follow the convoluted history of Quake, is, of course, the sequel to Quake 2. But it's a great standalone game.
It was a Quake 3, though, I remember.
That's right, Quake 3 Arena. So Quake 3 Arena was followed by Team Arena, and then now we have, actually I think they just finished something called Quake Champions, I think it's called, which is an online game. And so that's the kind of just deathmatch only, frantic kind of.
They invented the deathmatch. I mean, that was the king of the deathmatch. It was amazing.
Yeah, so Quake, the original Quake was kind of it was a mess is what it was. But as far as like the plot, I couldn't even explain it. But it is what it is. But it had single and multiplayer components.
And
Quake
we played Quake 3 Arena 20 years ago on the screensaver set. I mean, we loved that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. The single-player version of Quake 3 Arena was a multiplayer experience that you played against bots. Like, that's the game. Like, and then when you play multiplayer, it's the same levels. You just play against people. Anyway, I feel like Quake 2 and Quake 4 are underrated. Those games are great. They have great single-player campaigns. Quake 4 is now available on Xbox Game Pass, as are Wolfenstein 3D, the classic, the original id Software version of Wolfenstein, and then Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which is a much more recent game, although actually now it's probably getting close to 20 years old. And some other games too. But Quake Champions, I'm sorry. The new game is called Quake Champions. And I think that's, it might even be web-based, but it's online-based. Anyway, those games are all available now, and others are available now on PC Game Pass. And then looking at the competition, a couple of interesting things. Geforce Now, which has a standalone client, but if you go through the browser, Chrome or Edge, you can get 1440p / 120 frames per second.
What?
Performance
in
through
a browser?
Right? Yeah, and I haven't looked at Geforce Now in a while. They actually have 3 tiers of the service. And the highest end, this requires the highest end one. I should actually add that little asterisk. The highest end version, which is $20 per month, which they call the RTX 3080 tier, which is hilarious because that's the name of the graphics card.
Well, you're probably playing on a 3080, actually. Right?
Yeah, that's what it is. Exactly.
Yeah,
so if you go through the native client on that tier, you get 120 frames per second at 4K. But if you just go through the browser, you can get 1440p. It's pretty good.
That's unbelievable. Wow.
This service has 1,300 games in its library.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and these are games that are available through Steam most commonly, but also Epic Game Store. So it's for your PC.
I play it on my Shield, my NVIDIA Shield.
Oh, interesting. And
it plays quite well. I haven't tried the high-res version. I wonder how well that would play.
Yeah. So the browser version's new. I'm not sure about the other version, but the browser version's new. So a lot of this week has been, there's a show in Germany called Gamescom. This year they're doing it in person for the first time in a couple of years. I was invited to attend. I declined because, people and whatnot. But there are a lot of gaming related things occurring this week that are kind of interesting. So if you're familiar with the Microsoft way of doing things, in the Xbox world, we have the Elite controller. There have been 2 generations of it. Oddly, they haven't updated the Elite controller to support that screenshot / video recording button we have on the newer Xbox controllers, but presumably any year now. Sony this week has announced something called the DualSense Edge controller, which is their version of the Elite controller. And so this is the one where you can pop off all the buttons and the sticks and triggers and do all that kind of stuff and have different profiles and blah, 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 whatever. So super expensive, I would imagine. I don't think they announced the pricing, but the Elite controller, I think it might be $300. It's at least $200. It's very expensive. It's expensive enough I'm not going to be paying for it because I drop my controller on the ground all the time. And as much as I like the Lego effect of every single part of the controller flying in a different direction.
You don't drop it, you throw it.
No, actually, so
hard
actually,
the wall.
I've never thrown a controller.
What?
The truth is, what will happen is look, if you play video games, you've experienced this latency issue, right? Bullets flying, guys running through it like it's, I didn't hit anything. What am I, a stormtrooper? And then I'm dead. And then what I do in quiet sadness is the controller falls out of my hand and bops off the ground. And I'm
slump.
It's like, come on.
Oh, man.
It's the worst. That's how I drop the controller. Anyway, then you get into the situation where the controller gets stuck and you get that, your guy is
honestly,
just.
I'd rather you threw it. That's sad.
Yeah, no,
that's depressing.
No. I don't want to hurt the house. I'm just,
or the TV.
Yeah. So Sony had also previously announced they'd be coming out with a new VR system for the PlayStation 5. We were expecting it to come out for this holiday season. This week they announced it will in fact be coming out in early 2023. So PlayStation VR 2, it's 2000 by 2040 resolution per eye. I don't know why it's not just 2 by 2. 110 degree field of view, which is pretty close to wide. I mean, I think ultra wide starts around 115, 120, somewhere in there. And then high refresh rate. So it will support 4K, blah, 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 whatever, but we're not getting that on the Xbox side, so let's move on. And then the final thing, this one actually does impact gamers on PCs and Xbox. Amazon announced again as part of Gamescom that game control is now available to developers. It's kind of a waitlist type thing. You have to sign up for it. The first game will ship in, I think they said early 2023, but it's called Dead Island 2, which is a long-awaited sequel to that zombie game. If you think about this for a second, right? Like you're not going to speak commands for fast action things. Like in Call of Duty, you're not going to say shoot, shoot, shoot. That doesn't make any sense. But it is for right. I mean, but it's for secondary actions, right? So
kill him, frag him, shoot, bazooka, shoot.
What is he doing in there? You just you think I yell at the screen? No. So it's just swapping weapons. In this game, they literally you can distract zombies by saying, "Hey, zombie!
Hey, zombie! Hey, over here!"
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
This will work on PCs and consoles. You have to support Unity and C++ game engines, et cetera, et cetera. So it should work for just about everything. The interesting thing to me about this is, the dumbness of it. I don't think I would ever personally use this. But if you are an Amazon, I'm trying to not to say the word, an Amazon Smart Assistant user.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. A word. Yeah.
You don't have to use the A word to wake up the thing to do these commands. So in the game, you just talk.
A word. So pew, 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 pew.
If you do want to interact with your smart home devices, set timers, see what the weather is.
Then you do.
In the game, you can say a word and then whatever the phrase is, and that will turn on the normal.
You sound kind of frantic. Are you okay?
Yeah.
I'm getting fragged here, man. Turn on the lights.
Your blood pressure seems a little high. Should I call a doctor? No, just tell me what the weather is. So
why do you want to know the weather? You're being killed.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll that game, I should say, Dead Rising. Did I say Dead Rising? Not Dead Rising. Dead Island. Dead Rising has at least 3 games. Dead Island 2 will be available on the PC and the Xbox, and I believe it supports game. Yeah, sorry, I keep saying that. I believe it supports this on.
Anybody who listens to our shows with their assistants nearby, I'm sorry,
has stopped doing this years ago.
Yeah, they gave up.
Yeah, and you don't. To be clear, you don't need one of Amazon's devices or anything like that. It's built into the system, so it's.
I have the
hands-free, if that makes sense.
What is their game system? Nova? What do they call it? I have their
Luna.
Luna, that's right. I have the Luna.
Yeah, it works great.
Controller.
Yep,
because it's a Wi-Fi, so you want to use it with Luna.
Honestly, one of the best. I would say. I think the lowest latency game experience right now might be Luna.
It's pretty good. I am at some point going to have to decide.
Yeah, Stadia or
which one is it? Stadia? Is it Luna? Is it xCloud? Is it a Geforce Now? I'm going to have to pick one.
Geforce or Geforce.
Also, there's that. What was that thing that I put Windows in the cloud so I could play Stray? Whatever, I forgot.
Windows 365
No, it's anyway.
The thing you were talking about.
I showed it last week, but I can't remember the name anymore. So obviously,
right.
I better find out so I can cancel that subscription. But that's 5 different ways I can stream games now.
Oh yeah,
Shadow. That's
we
it.
did,
Shadow
and not
PC.
to mention Microsoft's Xbox Cloud Gaming.
Well, I call it xCloud. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. No, I have them all. I don't know which one.
Eventually, there will only be a few left.
Yeah. The games aren't the same on all of them. That's part of the problem.
Yep. And the experience is different too. I mean, I think Stadia and Luna probably have the best controller experience with latency, which is a big deal.
They have those direct control.
If you want to play like Doom Eternal or some fast-moving game, you need something low latency.
Yeah.
You know, Far Cry, whatever we're on now, 5 or 6, I guess. So, it's good. Sorry about the sale thing. The Bethesda sale was awesome.
Oh,
so
man.
if you didn't have this,
Kicking myself. I missed it.
Yep. Really good.
Okie dokie. I think we can wake up Mary Jo. Her coma is over, and we can quickly go to the back of the book after a word from our sponsor, the good folks at New Relic. Big fan of New Relic. I've talked about it before. As you know, Paul and I love devs. You know, we're self-styled developers, but even the professional people, you know, one of the things that characterizes developers, like all engineers, they're curious, right? They're the first to try new stuff. They actually read the documentation. They want to know not only how things work, but why they work that way. That's why so many engineers, people like us, turn to New Relic. New Relic gives you data about what you build as a developer and shows you the one thing every developer wants to know, but sometimes can't tell, what's really happening in your software lifecycle. It's so much more than just debugging. It's a single place to see the data from your entire stack, from the cloud on down, so you don't have to look at, you know, a bunch of different tools, figure out how they relate to one another. In fact, New Relic has 16 of the most useful tools all in one package, so you use those and you will have one screen that shows you everything you need to know. In fact, if there's a bug in your code, it will actually pinpoint the issue down to the line of code, so you know, as you want to, why the problems are happening and how you can fix them quickly. This is why so many dev and ops teams use New Relic. 14,000 companies like DoorDash and GitHub, Epic Games, they use New Relic to debug and improve their software. And when teams come together around data, it allows you to triage problems, be confident in decisions, and reduce the time you need to implement resolutions. And you're doing it with facts, with data, not opinions. Like, well, let's try this. No, you know. Use the data platform made for you, the curious. Right now, you can get access to the whole New Relic platform, the entire platform, and 100 gigabytes of data free every month forever. No credit card even. Sign up at newrelic.com/windows, newrelic.com/windows, newrelic.com/windows. Thank you, New Relic. And now, time for the back of the book. We'll start with Paulie, little Paulie Thurrant. And his
Speaking of developers,
tip of the week. Yes, sir.
So this past week, Microsoft had a .NET Conf, which is a one-day virtual conference focused on Maui. which is the new .NET based.
Now, I'm hoping they did this in Hawaii, but I'm pretty sure they didn't.
No. It was a goofy little homespun event. But if you're interested in this environment, which is Microsoft's kind of answer to Flutter, meaning, well, it's also the follow-up to Xamarin Forms, right? So this is the new, more modern way of creating cross-platform apps. In this case, it can run on Windows, Mac, Android, and iOS using a single code base, simplified kind of project structure, which I like. You can go back and watch the keynote, which is a little goofy, but worth watching, and the sessions individually. You can pick and choose which ones you want. The thing that's most interesting to me here is about 95% of the way through this thing, through the keynote, they started looking forward to .NET 7, which we know is coming out at the end of this year. And part of the .NET 7 wave is going to involve a major update to MAUI, which will include more desktop support specifically for Windows. And they talked about a bunch of the controls and features they're adding there, leading me to wonder if MAUI isn't being positioned as, if not the future, certainly a future for people who want to create desktop apps on Windows, like native desktop apps, because it's WinUI 3 based, et cetera, et cetera. So I am curious about that. I don't mean to say I don't care, but I'm really curious whether Microsoft will ever do anything on the desktop again for developers, and maybe, I'll be looking at this soon. My app pick of the week is one of those hell froze over moments. We know that Sony and Microsoft have been going at it through back channels with regards to both Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Gaming, and also Microsoft's acquisition or attempted acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And yet they have taken what I think is maybe a 3-year-old Sony PlayStation 4 premier title. They've ported it to the PC, and they're making it available on PC Game Pass. So there is hope for us all. It's called Death Stranding. This is the Norman Reedus, the guy from The Walking Dead, like Lindsay Wagner's in it. I can't think of his name. I'm sorry. He's a Danish actor. The guy who played Hannibal Lecter in the Hannibal Lecter TV series, whatever that was called. He's fantastic. Is in this game. I may literally start playing on a PC just to play this one game. Very, very interesting. So among the games that were announced this past week coming to PC Game Pass that I mentioned earlier is a Sony title that was previously a PlayStation exclusive, but they're bringing it to the PC. So the world's getting a little weird out there.
Oh, if you think it's weird, wait till you hear Mary Jo Foley's Enterprise Pick of the Week.
I don't think this is too weird.
No, I'm just trying to sell you. I'm trying to sell it. That's all.
Leo is the endless promotion. It's just a promotion machine. If you think that's exciting,
Enterprise.
Wait till you hear this. Okay.
Too much time spent in the trenches in broadcast television.
I'm going to make it exciting just because you gave it a nice intro here.
Yes.
In 2020, Microsoft announced this thing called Azure Communication Services, ACS. If you know what Twilio does, it's kind of like that. You can take the chat, the texting, the video, and the voice services that Microsoft uses in Teams and break them out and use them in your own apps if you're a developer. So we haven't heard a whole lot about this since they announced this in 2020. But now, as of this week, it seems that these services are generally available. And I'm not clear from the various ways this is worded if they're just for people writing Teams apps. But I think it's beyond that. I think it's anybody who's a third-party developer who wants to use Microsoft's own battle-tested texting, voice, video kinds of services that they use in Teams can take these services and put them in their own business apps now. This is interesting because a lot of people want to add things like, support for its telephony to their app, but they're like, that's a lot of work. But what if you could just take Microsoft's APIs, including the graph, everything that builds into the Graph API, and use that to build your app? That's the premise of this. You get all the things that are built into to the platform, like support for Azure Active Directory, all the identity kinds of services that Microsoft's doing, and it's just is already there and done for you. So if you're a developer looking to build things that might use these kind of services, you should check out what Microsoft has with ACS. That was pretty exciting, right?
Not as exciting as...
Yep.
I did my best, guys.
Pretty much anything, actually. Mads Mikkelsen in the chat room.
Thank you.
Us, and he's
Thank
Danish.
You. Didn't I say Danish? I thought I said Danish.
Danish, yes.
Anyway, he's an excellent actor. I like him a lot.
Mads. Yeah. Now, the codename pick of the week.
Yes, and I'm sure Paul is going to help weigh in on this. So
I added a few things to the notes.
Good. Okay, good. I figured you wouldn't resist this one. So everybody, I feel like, knows the code name of Windows 95 was Chicago. That's pretty well known.
Yeah.
Right? That could even be a Jeopardy question, and normal people might know that, I feel like. Or at least some normal people might know that. But did you know the code name of IE 1.0, which shipped at the same time as Chicago? The code name was O'Hare.
The
O'Hare.
Chicago Airport.
Yes.
Oh, I love it. That's actually clever.
It was clever.
Yeah.
This was the days when code names were fun and chasing them was fun. It's not as fun anymore. But IE1 was part of the thing called Windows 95 Plus Pack. The code name of that was Frosting, like the frosting on the cake. And then there are other similarly themed things around Windows 95, like Windows 95 OSR2. The OSR2 release was Detroit. That was the code name of that. And then Paul added some more going along in this theme to this code name pick. We had Memphis was Windows 98. So they were staying in that geography, just saying, okay, we're doing Windows code names here.
And Cairo, by the way, remember, was going to be Windows NT something, and it wasn't. But
then we had Neptune and Asteroid. And
we went to space. Yeah, Odyssey was one.
What was Neptune?
Odyssey, yeah.
Neptune, well, they never released it. So that was going to be like a Windows 98. Neptune was...
They're about as consistent with their code names as they are with their Windows version.
The thing that would have been Neptune became like Millennium Edition. It was, Neptune was where they were testing these activity centers, which made their way into Millennium Edition.
Why do companies, do they do that to hide what they're up to, or do they do that because they need an internal name and they haven't come up with a public name yet?
Actually, by the way, I'm so glad you asked this question, because this goes back to the initial discussion we had today, because things need a name. And when you don't know what the final brand is, because you don't in the beginning usually, you have to give it a code name.
Right. So you can talk about it when you're at lunch.
You have to have a name. Yeah. Names are important.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My parents should have code named me. They should have given me a code name until they decided on the
parents
final.
Sometimes do that, Baby Girl 1 or whatever. Sometimes they do that.
That's true.
The hospital probably called you Baby Girl Foley or whatever.
They did.
Yeah.
That was on my tag.
Yeah.
I have a friend on Facebook who never says the name of her children on Facebook. She refers to them as the girl and the boy.
Yeah.
And it's capital G, capital B.
Yeah. Good news. No one will ever figure out their names if you keep doing that. Facebook has no idea.
The only people following you in Facebook are your friends and your family.
Of course.
Exactly.
Like, what are you doing? It's like, you'll never believe what the boy did this morning. Okay.
I wonder who she's talking about.
No, I admire her, her...
it's not a mystery novel, honey. What's the name?
Her sec ops are very good, but honestly, I don't think it's going to be of any...
I don't...
It will not avail.
Yep.
By the way, the show title will be Names Are Important.
There you go.
Speaking of which, what a name for our beer pick of the week. Holy moly.
Yeah, this is a super interesting story about this beer. Japus Cervejaria, or however you pronounce that.
That's a super Portuguese word for...
It is.
Cerveja like a beer,
brewery.
Right?
It must mean brewery.
Cervejaria.
It's like
guarantee you it's pronounced Chardé. It has Portuguese.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nothing
if you know
to do with
anything
the
about
spelling.
Portuguese, that's exactly right. There's
I
a
have no
shush
idea how to
sound in there
pronounce
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go from
It's a
Portuguese name. They're absolutely
Yeah, it
a
is
shush
Portuguese.
sound.
The reason this is a Portuguese name is this is a Japanese-owned brewery.
Oh, here's
in
the confusion.
Sao Paulo.
That follows.
Okay,
Yeah,
now I get
I'm
it.
tracking it so far.
Now I get it.
Okay, so I get to meet the brewers. It's 3 women who started this in Brazil. They're Japanese, or at least they're all Asian.
Fantastic.
I was very puzzled about this. I'm like, a Japanese-owned brewery in Brazil, and they said, well, one of the biggest communities of Japanese people outside of Japan is in Brazil, which I didn't know.
Along with Nazis. So it's, what fun, huh?
Yeah.
That was Argentina.
Oh, Argentina, just across the way. Okay, perfect.
Just close by.
Close
yeah.
by. What is it about South America?
Although the boys from Brazil was a thing.
Yeah, right? Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Guys, you're throwing me off
Sorry,
track. Hold
never
on.
mind. Forget we said anything. Continue.
Okay. They make a lot of beers that are all variety of styles, but they use Asian ingredients in them in thoughtful ways.
And to further confuse you, this is a New England hazy.
Style.
This is such a mess.
Made by Japanese people
Excellent.
in Brazil.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
The beer is called Kasato Maru. It's named after the first ship that brought Japanese immigrants to Brazil.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
A New England style IPA that adds Dakopon, which is a Japanese Satsuma style orange that is seedless, I believe. And they mix that in. So it gives it an orangey flavor mixed with the IPA. It's really nice. Because a lot of IPAs have more like, I feel like grapefruity flavors or melony flavors. And this is orange. And it's very nice. So you may see this beer if you live in the United States, or beers by this brewery, because they've started doing some contract brewing here in the U.S. and they brewed some of their beers that they brought to New York for this tasting I was at in Chicago. So if you're in the Midwest, you might start seeing these beers, or even other places, because they're trying to increase their distribution and are going on the road with their beers.
Is there something?
So, yeah.
I mean, there's definitely something typical about a Japanese beer, about a New England beer. Is there something about Brazilian beer that's...
So Brazil makes a lot of good craft beer, surprisingly. Like I've had a few different breweries from Brazil that we've gotten in New York, and the beers
Honestly,
have been
I feel like
really,
the entire
really good.
planet could be described
A craft
as
brewery.
having good
Yeah.
craft brew, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
Planet Earth, home to craft brew. Aliens are going to come here and say, we heard there was good beer.
This was it was Sam Adams that had basically killed off craft beers, and craft beers now are the biggest thing in the world.
Sam Adams killed craft beers by pretending to be a craft beer.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Some people consider them craft, but
Well, they shouldn't, because
They're mass-produced craft beers.
Well, a lot of the original craft breweries got bought by big companies.
Right.
So then the question is, like, do you
I
still
can't
call them a
complain.
craft brewery or not?
Heineken owns Lagunitas. I can't complain.
Yep, I know. Yep.
Jeez Louise.
And a number of my friends got very wealthy because of it. So again, can't complain.
So an Asian style beer made in or designed in Brazil.
Yes.
in the New England style.
And possibly brewed in Chicago.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't get any
It's
more
a true
international
world
than this.
mashup, guys.
And you were
That's it.
talking about like the
women-owned
Microsoft code
brewery.
names. This is
Women-owned
And it's a
brewery,
woman-owned
too, even.
brewery. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this
That's multiple levels
one
of
beer
diversity.
that has it all.
They kind of do. All the check boxes. Click, click, click.
When you
And
say
it was a good
Casato
beer
Maro,
as well.
you said it all. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It looks like it's in cans, so you might be able to get it if you look around. Nice.
You know what they need is some mashup of Japanese whiskey
Yeah.
and beer, right?
Yeah. You can get it at Gordon's Fine Wines in Waltham.
Nice.
Nice.
Sure.
There you go. Verified.
Wicked.
Yep. So, as I think longtime winners and dozers know, when you get to the beer, you get to the bottom and you drink it all up, because that's it for Windows Weekly for this fine Wednesday afternoon.
Well,
Thank you, Mary Jo Foley. Read her stuff on the beautiful new zdnet.com. It's easy to get there. Just go to allaboutmicrosoft.com. Paul Thurrant is a blogger. He writes his blog.
a writer.
He's your cousin from Boston. He writes your blog there at thurrant.com.
I told you my favorite Boston area store is called Atmat.
Atmat. I went down to the Atmat. Got me some canvases and pens, a couple of paintbrushes. The Thurrant.com site is where you find his day-to-day writings. By the way, become a premium member. There's great stuff behind the premium paywall, and it's not expensive. And then there's his books, which are at leanpug.com. Field Guide to Windows 10 currently soon, right, Paul? Field Guide to Windows 11?
Yes. So I was going to do this when we were on the boat. I was going to do it by the end of July. I came back with COVID. I went to Mexico. I'm like, absolutely going to do this. Came back with food poisoning.
Oh, Lord.
I'm like, yeah, it's over 200 pages. It's woefully incomplete. Yes.
It's all right.
So, yeah, as soon as I can. I'm sorry it's taking so long.
No, that's fine.
I do work on it. I work on it every week. It's not like sitting there.
I just want to give you a chance to promote it when it comes out because people will.
Oh, I can't wait to just sell it.
Yeah.
But
Logical.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. We do Windows Weekly every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, right after Floss Weekly. That's 1800 UTC. You can watch us do it live at live.twit.tv. People who watch live like to chat with each other amongst themselves as they're watching. The two places you can do that are Wide Open IRC channel. You can actually go there in a browser, and if you want to use an IRC client, the details are there. It's irc.twit.tv. Members of Club Twit, that $7 a month thing I was talking about with ad-free versions of all of our shows, that's they have a Discord as well, which is really a great benefit. We love this Discord. So much fun. In fact, Stacy's book club is tomorrow. That's going to be, I have a lot of reading to do between now and then. I'm still about 5 hours from the end of Clara and the Sun. And that Discord is another place you can chat about all the shows and all sorts of other topics. If you're interested in Club Twit, twit.tv/Club Twit. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show available with ads for free to everyone at twit.tv/WW or youtube.com/Windows Weekly. Or maybe the best thing to do, just search for it in your favorite podcast player. That way you can subscribe and get it the minute it's done. And you'll have your copy for listening at your leisure. If you do listen, on demand, you might want to join the on-demand conversations that happen at our Twit forums, which is twit.community, or the Twit Mastodon instance, which is twit.social. Paul, Mary Jo, have a great week. Is it cooling off a little bit on the East Coast there?
90 degrees today.
Yikes.
Yeah. Not so much.
Okay, well, stay as cool as you can, and we will see you next Wednesday on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.
Don't miss All About Android every week. We talk about the latest news, hardware, apps, and now all the developer-y goodness happening in the Android ecosystem. I'm Jason Howell, also joined by Ron Richards, Florence Ion, and our newest co-host on the panel, Wen Tu Dao, who brings her developer chops. Really great stuff. We also invite people from all over the Android ecosystem to talk about this mobile platform we love so much. Join us every Tuesday, All About Android on twit.tv.